When you're learning what's important to a person, you also want to be thinking about how can I get what might be referred to as the top tips. What can I get that would really tell me the best ways to support a person? And one of those is by asking what we call the 2-minute drill. And the idea of the 2-minute drill is to turn to the person and say again that we were planning with Helen. And we were talking with the people who really know Helen and the people who support her day to day, and we were saying to them, suppose something really good happened. You opened your mail and you found that you had this extraordinarily wonderful dream vacation, but you had to leave the very next day. And you call me up to say, could you please provide Helen with support? But you only have 2 minutes because you're really busy. What would you say? What would you tell me in 2 minutes that would describe what was important to Helen and how to best support her? And this can give you information that in many ways really informs and shapes the description, informs and shapes how you tell others. And sometimes it can be very simple. I will always remember asking one mom, how do we really know how to support your son? If you got that dream vacation and you had to leave, what would you tell me? She said, I don't need 2 minutes. Just ask him. If you ask him, he will tell you. He knows what's important to him. He knows what's important for him. He just needs help with it. And once you get that information, you begin to look at where it would best go in the description. What bits of it will tell you what's important to, and what bits of it will say, okay, here's how to best support. When you're looking at what's important to a person and you're learning, one of the things you want to learn is what needs to be absent from somebody's life, as well as what needs to be present. It's often the things when people start losing control of their life, it's the things that the system puts in place which can inadvertently cause the person to have really bad days. And so you want to know, what are the things that need to be absent from somebody's life? And the best way we found to do this is to ask, what's the best day like? If you wanted somebody to really have a remarkably good day or a remarkably good week, what would you do? But that question is really a setup for the second question. If you wanted to ruin somebody's day, if you wanted somebody to have the most awful day you could imagine, what would you do? Because that tells you what needs to be absent from somebody's life. If you think about the 2-minute drill question and the best worst day question, you're also then looking at questions that don't require a lot of time from the person that you're asking it of. So if you're looking at very busy people who don't have a great deal of time that they can spend informing the plan, informing the description, then these are questions that work very well. All of these questions together, when you start looking at rituals and routines, when you start looking at good day, bad day, when you look at the 2-minute drill, you look at the best day, the worst day, when you start putting those questions together, you have the questions that will enable you to have the conversation that will lead you to what is important to the person and how to best support them. And if you start thinking about good days and bad days, then what you want to do and what you want to begin with is to think about how to walk through time with people. So if you're talking with a person, then you would say, tell me about how you get up. Tell me about what a good morning's like. Tell me what a bad morning's like. You chunk up time. So you ask about a good morning, a bad morning. And when you start talking about a good morning and a bad morning, you might find that the conversation starts branching off. Because somebody might tell you, well, my favorite breakfast. And that might lead you to favorite meals, and that might lead you to celebrations, and that might lead you back to relationships and family. And then you take that conversation wherever it goes, but you remember where you were in time. And you, again, what's a good day like? What's a bad day like? And you start wandering through that and saying, what's a good day like for you and what's a bad day like for you all the way through. But there are some people, particularly people who've had nothing but bad days or an awful lot of bad days, who really find that very difficult, and they will tell you, I have no bad days. I only have good days. And that just seems remarkably unlikely because almost all of us have bad days. So for people who can't tell you what a good day is like and what a bad day is like, what you can frequently do is just walk through time. Well, what was Monday like? What was Tuesday like? And I did this with a fellow who was someone who had lived in an institution in America for a remarkably long time. And he could tell you stories about how they would cut down trees and drag them out of the forest and turn them into furniture. But he was now living in a home where he was living with somebody who would steal his stuff, who would steal his possessions. And that would just make him enraged. But he couldn't tell you about that by telling you about a good day and a bad day, but he could tell you about it by asking what Monday was like, what Tuesday was like, what Wednesday was like. Asking the people around the person, though, you can almost always get good days and bad days. The thing to watch out for is when I'm telling you about a good day, and if we were planning with Helen, and I started telling you about a good day for Helen or a bad day for Helen, make sure that I'm telling you about a good day for Helen, a bad day for Helen, and not a good day for me when I work with Helen, or a bad day for me when I work with Helen. Because then you're learning what's important to me rather than what's important to Helen.